would people mistreat each other? Well, they have done it. That's what we can say with some degree of credibility, that this is the way it's been. This has been the order of business. It just so happens that the white supremacists are the most skilled at doing it on a massive scale, the greatest scale that the world has ever seen. Prior to that, once the system of white supremacy was put in place, and they became the conquerors and the smartest people on the planet, those white people, not all white people, but those white people who believed in the idea of racism, became the smartest people on the planet and the most powerful. And by being in that position, having the know-how of how to conquer people and submit those persons to their will, having the skill to do so, and also having the intention of mistreating people on a grand scale and glorifying themselves in that mistreatment, they became the most powerful entity and the latest entity into that arena of mistreatment that had been going on among all people, according to what evidence we have, as far back as anybody can remember. Mistreatment in one form or another has been glorified, but once it was put on a color basis, it took off like a rocket. It took off on a grander scale and involved more people in a shorter period of time than ever before. According to the evidence, it appears that nobody thought of it before. Some white person apparently thought of the idea, let's take the royal system, in other words, holier than thou, the king can do no wrong, and put it on a color basis. Because apparently, according to the histories that you read, white people and apparently non-white people fought among themselves based on who was royal and who wasn't. Kings and queens, the whole concept of kings and queens. Now, there are people who said they had good kings and queens, and then there are people who said they had bad kings and queens, but most of them would agree that if you have a king or a queen, they are somehow divine, and therefore everything that they say is gospel, and everything that they do is not to be questioned. Now, this wasn't true among all tribes and all people everywhere at all times, apparently, but it was true among some of the most dominant people, the dominant tribes, the dominant groups at any given time. And they had a blank check to do and say what they please. Now, it seems, and I don't know when it happened because that's highly argumentative, but somewhere along the line, someone who has the category now of being a white person, W-H-I-T-E, apparently, some person or some group of persons somewhere thought of the idea, let's take the royal system where we fight among ourselves and jockeying for position, and we can reduce the amount of fighting among ourselves if we take that royal idea and put it on a color basis. Now, all we need to do is just round up some people who don't look like us and make them the subservient class, and we'll do it on the basis of skin color, because that would be something very obvious, and people can pick it up right away, and we can pass it on from generation to generation. It turned out to be the most powerful religious and political idea ever conceived in the minds of people, and it is the strongest impediment to this concept that we call justice. Now, in other words, now that the system of white supremacy evolved over a period of time and became so strong, trying to untangle it and do away with it and get back to the business of trying to produce a thing called justice has been made much more difficult than it would have been made under any other circumstance.